Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Top 10 edition of Magic Mike's, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. And finally, check out our new altar sleeves. Get your custom sleeve image of the Magic Mike's crew at altarsleeves.com/magicmikes. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hello, everybody.
Ruben holding up a sleeve.
That's me. I look quite. This is me, but better looking,
but cooler,
with more sleep.
Ruben breast sleeve. Ruben breast sleeve. Yeah.
Ruben Sleepsler.
Ruben breast sleeve.
Ruben
Sleevesler.
Well,
all of these are good.
Yeah, I have my own here. I have Aaron. Well, Aaron right there.
Hey, I'll cut you.
That's right. She will. 100% cut me.
Bone dagger.
Right. I still have this weird. Actually, gosh, I still have this weird Chinese cabal covers that someone had sent us at one point or another.
You put one of your kids through school with that.
I know, right?
Say.
It's silly.
That's MTG stonks right there.
The good stomps, because they will not reprint that thing. Wizards, what are you doing? Ridiculous. But that said, we begin with our choice of the top comment from last week in a segment we call Honorable Mention, where Ruben will tell us who was the most eloquent in letting us know what card we did not choose as one of our worst cards of 2020. Ruben?
Well, we had a couple good comments this week, but I decided to go with Effin Fen, who writes, without getting me started on why I hate the Secret Lair with The Walking Dead and additional IPs in Tournament Magic, looking forward to playing Tempo Spider-Man versus mid-range Lego Batman in Legacy, I have to say that one of the least fun designs of the year is Jared Carthalion, True Heir. Why can't I regain the Monarch the turn I play it? Sure, it makes sense flavor-wise, but during gameplay, it's such a disappointment. It never works out for you in practice, and ends up dying before you regain the Monarch, and still is in danger of a Doomblade. This is one card that sets up its owner for a series of feel-bad moments. You don't even have to have your opponent do anything. You get to make yourself feel bad solely with your own card choices.
Goodness gracious. Jared Carthalion is the True Heir, is a rare from Commander Legends, the legendary creature Human Warrior. It's white, green, and red for a 3/3 that says when it enters the battlefield, target opponent becomes the Monarch. You can't become the Monarch this turn. If damage would be dealt to Jared Carthalion, and while you're the Monarch, prevent that damage and put that many +1/+1 counters on it. That card's just waiting to do bad things to you. Like
this is such, like, why?
I mean,
so stupid.
It's a lot.
I mean, you do get to king make, right? That's kind of cool. Like, you get to determine this person's now going to have the advantage. This person now owes me, right? Like, I guess.
Or you put a target on somebody's back, which is fine.
Which is also
And then
okay.
it just becomes big. But in the end, this thing just attacks and blocks, right? Like, it just becomes a 9/9. And
if it stops damage at all and they don't just
if
doomblade
it stops damage at all, exactly.
Right, just murder. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I get to pay 5 mana for this crappy effect.
Not good.
5 mana now to give you the Monarch. Now 7 mana to give you the Monarch. Like, what's happening here? So that card is bad, and thank you so much for Infin for being a part of the show. Please contact Erin on social media before she blocks you on all of them.
Hey, I haven't blocked anybody all weekend long.
We gotta get those block muscles, stretched and going again.
Are you feeling generous or just haven't been on the internet?
I've been busy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks again to CoolStuffInc.com for sponsoring this giveaway, and stay tuned for our top 10 list this week, and maybe you can win next week's free gift certificate, because it is time to talk about the top 10 cards from Kaldheim. Woo! We have ourselves a brand new set. It's pretty fun to play. I'm not gonna lie. I got to play in limited constructed. It's been fun.
It is. I mean, it feels like a new environment. It feels totally different than everything that we've done before. I really love the gameplay of Foretell. I felt like I had missed Snow in Standard at like a reasonable power level. And like being able to scred things again with Frostbite makes me happy. I'm glad they didn't give us Scred.
Cool. I'm glad it's just Frostbite.
Scred was a bridge too far.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a pre-release for 2 yesterday with my boyfriend, which is not a euphemism, and we had a really, really lovely time. Like, the set is fine. Like, I don't think it's an overpowered set.
No.
I think it's a nice, kind of reset button for the way that things have been. Even the cards that are making an impact in multiple formats, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the show, are still just reasonable. Like, I haven't really seen anything that is on the power level of, like, Uro or Oko or just, you know, these cards that make you just want to give up. Like, it's just a fine set.
What I like about Kaldheim is that, again, I don't foresee anything. There's nothing like we looked at Underworld Breach I don't foretell anything. We looked at Underworld Breach and we were like, that's getting banned in multiple formats. We looked at Fall from Favor and we were like, that's getting banned immediately.
Right.
This set, you look at it and you're like, these are all good. Like, they're all going to see play. They may be the best thing to be doing in Standard, even better than some of the stuff that we thought about banning previously. But nothing's broken. Nothing feels bad. Nothing's oppressive, exactly.
Right. You didn't have a weird, like the Omnath deck or whatever that just started as a meme and became the best thing, and then everyone hated it, and oh my god. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get started here with our number 10. Aaron, what you got?
So my first 5 cards are going to be more Commander focused. They're cards that I think are going to be big hits in Commander, or cards that I'm personally excited to try about in Commander. And my number 10, I love tribal strategies. I'm one of those people that believes that restriction breeds creativity, particularly in Commander. I like having a smaller sandbox to play in as opposed to a larger one with lots of colors. And so I tend to build a lot of tribal decks just because I think they're really neat places to play. And so I'm really excited to put this into, any number of decks, whether it be a Merfolk deck or a Fairies deck or even a Zombies deck if you're playing blue. My number 10 is Reflections of Lit Jara. So Reflections of Lit Jara is 4 colorless and a blue. It is an enchantment. As Reflections enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type, and whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, you copy that spell. And so that's not bad, You're playing, Wizards has obviously shown more emphasis for enter the battlefield effects. And so just being able to copy and get more ETBs, I'm completely here for this. It's going for $1.50 right now. I opened one the other day. I was a little sad I didn't have enough cards to really support this, but I can think of at least 2 decks right now that I could easily slot this in and have a good time.
Yeah, this is also the promo for the bundle. If you buy a bundle, you get a special version of this card.
Yeah.
This card feels like something they would not have been comfortable printing maybe 5-10 years ago, when they would say something like the token would be too complex. We don't have to make an object that has all the rules text of everything else on it. Now it's like, whatever. Just copy it. It's fine.
I like that this also plays well with other tribal strategies. Like in the past, they used to give creature types to non-creature things. So Tarfire had a tribe to it, and other things used to have tribes. And it does say whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, that does count for those things.
Oh, yes, 100%. Okay. Yeah, tribal spells will be with us for forever, whether they like it or not.
It works with Crib Swap. My life is saved. I think that this card could be doubling season in 10 years. If they accidentally don't reprint it a bunch, right? And this is the kind of card that casual players love. It is going to be something that people are constantly searching for in Scryfall. It's just a really fun, unique, interesting design.
Yeah, super nice. Ruben, what's number 10?
My number 10 is, I love Kaldheim for a number of reasons, but among them are the direct callbacks to Norse mythology, which we've been asking for and clamoring for 2 decades, right? Back when we were like, we want a pirate world, we want an Egyptian world, we want a Norse world,
right? Like
10 years ago.
Yes.
And we finally got Kaldheim. And one of the things that is, of course, central to the world of Norse mythology is Yggdrasil, the world tree.
Yes.
And of course, they've had to print something like that gigantic world tree, and they did. They printed the World Tree, which is a land that enters the battlefield tapped and adds a green mana. As long as you have 6 or more lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color, and pay door to nothingness mana, white, white, blue, blue, black, black, red, red, green, green, and tap, and sacrifice the World Tree. Search your library for any number of god cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. I just think that it's neat. I just think that this is a cool card.
A slight error was made. Unfortunately, this is higher up on my list, but regardless, this is a hell of a Magic card. It's fine. This is one of those cards that just helps define a set. Like, we know it's not legendary. We've had all the conversations about why it's not legendary.
And again, I think it's fine that it's not legendary because the point of Yggdrasil is that it reaches all of the worlds, and there are multiple world trees in different worlds. So.
See, this card scares me as somebody who has been, I remember when Field of the Dead came out and people were like, but you need 7 types. And now it's banned in formats and they're playing it in Legacy. And so, you know that Omnath and Uro are a popular strategy right now. And so, when I look at this, I see that they're trying to give you a drawback, but I also know what people are capable of. And I know how easy it is for people to ramp right now when you have that Dryad that makes lands everything. And so, I'm just looking at this and I'm just going, oh God, we're going going to see this. Someone's going to try to do this in another format, and I'm just like, no.
The big one is the green 1/4 Eskia God of the Tree.
Yes.
Is the scary one with this, of course.
But, I played against that card earlier today, and they ramped out the prismatic bridge really quickly, and mother of God, that gets out of control really fast. Yeah, that's a hell of a magic card, no matter how you slice it. Yeah. So for my number 10, when I was playing in the preview event, I thought that this card kind of surprised me the most in terms of it was cool, it was interesting. I did not see it coming. I thought this card was I thought this card was basically unplayable. And then after I played against it, I was like, this card is great, and I want to build decks with it. My number 10 is Cosmos Elixir. For 4 generic mana, it is a rare artifact that says at the beginning of your end step, draw a card if your life total is greater than your starting life total. Otherwise, you gain 2 life. When there's 2 of this thing on the battlefield and there's 3 of this thing on the battlefield, you can't keep up with them anymore. Life is so cheap these days. To get above your starting life total is just playing a land, for God's sake.
Is there a way to copy them and make more of them?
Lithoform Engine was a card I played against.
Okay.
Wow. So that hurt. Yeah, it got crazy really fast.
That's funny.
But yeah, it's been really silly, and I've enjoyed playing against it. People, I think, overvalue it. Like, I think it's probably not even that good. But it was definitely surprising to me when I was like, that card's trash. And I'm like, that card is beating me to death and has drawn them 7 cards, and I lose now.
I like this card because I could see this card having been printed in like alpha. I think that they could have just printed this card 20 years ago.
Sure.
And it would have been like, this card's very good.
Yes, very good.
But also, I could picture it existing and not being too broken at that time.
It could give you a good reason to play Shatter, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I like this card a lot. I think this has potential in Commander, particularly in white. You know, I'm not one of those people who thinks that white is like I don't think they're destitute. Like, I don't think they're as bad as people think they are. But, you know, white definitely has to get a little creative when it comes to card draw. And one thing that white does well is gain life. And so, or even just any color, you know, if you're looking for any sort of card draw that's different than the usual suspects of, you know, Harmonize or, you know, Ugin's Insight or whatever you're doing, like, this is a really neat, kitschy way to gain life or, you know, draw cards. I think it's great. I'm with you. I think it's neat. And I think it has potential.
Yeah, you have this with Dawn of Hope in play at the same time.
Exactly. Like, there's so many different, like, weird little synergies you have with all the life gain cards that exist anyway. And like, I would just not been surprised if this was 3 and a white and was a white artifact, or it was a white snow artifact, for God's sake, because we're in Kaldheim. But regardless, I love the card. So let's move in here to number 9. My number 9 and 8 are higher on someone else's list, and that's okay. Ruben, what's your number 9?
Let me make sure. My number 9 is a card that I think makes the whole foretell mechanic work. It makes the whole thing spin. Because when you have morph, you want to have tricks. You want to have weird stuff be able to happen. When you have hidden information, hide away, stuff like that, you want the reveal to be interesting. And you want to have that bluffing ability. And when I saw foretell, I was like, you need to have a playable foretell counterspell. And they gave us a playable foretell counterspell in Saw It Coming.
They did.
Saw It Coming is a colorless, a blue, and a blue for an instant counter target spell with foretell of a colorless and a blue. During your turn, you may pay 2 colorless and exile this card from your hand face down, cast it on a later turn for its foretell cost. How predictable. This is Cancel, first of all, which has seen competitive play, various cancels with different types of upsides.
Right.
And the foretell lets you pay a colorless and a blue. The fact that this isn't blue was really surprising to me. And it's also, it's huge for 3-color decks. And it's just, I just love this card.
If there is one thing that has remained true for the past 15 years of me making Magic content, it is that the perfect cost for a counter spell is 2.5 mana. And Wizards has done nothing but, like, every which way but loose, try to figure out how do we make it 2.5 mana, and I think they nailed it on this one. This is the foretell not being blue, if not somewhat a little not as flavorful as it could be, but it's as flexible as it could be, and that's huge. This card is fantastic.
Yeah, if they give it to you for less than 2.5, there's usually a catch where it's like you'll get a swan song, which is 1 blue, but it only counters certain things, and you get a bird for it. And so, you're right. Anything below that, there's got to be a pretty what they perceive to be a hefty cost.
Exactly. So this was a surprise. This is one of those I didn't think they would go there, but
I didn't think they'd go there either. And they previewed it like towards the end of preview season of where we were like, wonder what the Foretell counterspell is going to be. And then they actually gave us kind of what we wanted.
Yeah, this is one of those, like, if you want it to be aggressive, it has to be fair. This is exactly the numbers and the mana cost I would see.
It's perfect.
Fantastic. Aaron, what's number 9?
So this is another card that is good for a tribal strategy. They previewed this pretty early on in the cycle, and I knew this was something that I wanted, particularly for my Pashalik Mons deck, because it is a Goblin Aristocrats deck. And so you're going to have to sacrifice something, and it also relies on tribal strategies, which is exactly what I'm doing. And so it's currently going for about $2 right now, and so now's a really good time to get one, and I plan on putting in my order at coolstuffinc.com so I can get one. My number 9 is Pyre of Heroes.
Nice.
So Pyre of Heroes is 2 colorless. It is an artifact. If for 2 colorless and a tap, you can sacrifice a creature. You search your library for a creature card that shares a type with the sacrificed creature and has CMC equal to 1 plus that creature's converted mana cost. So it's essentially a birthing pod. You can put that card onto the battlefield and then shuffle your library, and you activate this anytime you could cast a sorcery. So giving this ability, this is a colorless artifact. So any colored tribal strategy can play this, whether it's angels or goblins or zombies or merfolk or whatever. This opens up a lot of doors, both literally and figuratively.
It's just it does it so well in the way that it does it, right? They cost it in a way that every single tribal deck is like, I mean, Pyre of Heroes is right here.
Yeah,
why not?
Yeah, I'm a really, really big fan of this card, and I hope it works the way I want it to.
So I had one of these in one of my limited decks, and it didn't work out the way I wanted it. I had it in a changeling deck, and I wanted it to be able to be like, all right, sacrifice my 3-drop elf, go get a 4-drop changeling, go get a 5-drop giant, right? Mm-hmm. That was the dream. It didn't really work in limited. I needed a more focused deck. I also maybe because it was like my second time ever drafting a deck. But this effect is always good. Like every single time.
I would say it's always good and constructed. The issue, as you found in limited, is that you have to sacrifice your creatures to go get other creatures that if they remove them, you look like an idiot. Whereas in constructed, you're going to go get super powerful cards.
The first 2 times that I made Mythic or whatever the highest rank is in Arena was with a Bant Prime Speaker Vanifar deck. That was the first 2 times, because that was when I downloaded Arena and I was making Prime Speaker Vanifar decks. Mm-hmm. Neoform is busted in Historic.
Yes, it is.
Birthing Pod is banned in Modern. Like, the list goes on and on. This effect, Eldritch Evolution is a top-tier strategy. This effect is always good.
Yeah, so you can get it for very cheap here. This honestly, $2. I'm a little shocked. You should get your copies sooner than later. Just saying.
At coolstuffinc.com.
Where you can find cool
another
stuff
one that goes in that Reflections of Leet Jara deck.
Yeah.
This is another one that could be exploding in price later.
Sounds like fun. Let's move on here to number 8. Again, mine is higher. Ruben, what you got?
My number 8 is a card that not only is it very good, not only has it been compared, not really favorably, but compared by some to a dominant card in current standard, but it also features a piece of artwork that is unique in the history of Magic. It is a wood etching that Victor Adame Menges did for Binding the Old Gods.
Yeah.
Binding the Old Gods is 2 colorless black-green for a saga. Chapter 1, destroy target non-land permanent an opponent controls. Chapter 2, search your library for a forest card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. Chapter 3 is creatures you control gain death touch till end of turn. People have been saying that this is a worse, but cheaper, Elspeth Conquers Death.
It pretty much is. It is a shoe-in for any black-green deck I could imagine that wants to play it. I've seen some rock decks that already have, 4 of this card, and there's basically no downside. At which point are you really unhappy with literally any of these effects? I can't think of any.
This really does feel like just the perfect marriage of Golgari colors. You have the destroy target non-land permanent, which is something that, green-black does very well, whether it be Abrupt Decay or Casualties of War or things like that. You have the ramp, which is usually just a green thing. And then you have, Death Touch, which is predominantly black, but green has been kind of flirting with it as well. And so this is perfect. And like you mentioned, the medium of how we, the artists who get to do sagas have really been enjoying playing in that sandbox of, we've seen actual scrolls like being made, like tapestries. And so, giving your artists, new ways to flex is always a good feeling. And to see Victor, move into this medium and do it so well, I think is really amazing.
I think sagas, as we've said many times, are the fixed planeswalkers of the world. I love them. I want more of them. And I've been saying since years ago, like all the story cards, almost all the story cards should be sagas to try to explain what's going on.
They also can supplement the actual story. I think Magic Story has been in we're kind of getting back to a more normal place, but for a while there it was pretty gamey. And I think one of the ways that we could have maybe padded that or cushioned that blow is, okay, we're not going to give you this, but we're going to give you this to kind of tide you over.
And I love that idea. I mean, would we have known basically anything about the story if we didn't have Binding of the Titans, if we didn't have Elspeth Conquers Death, if we didn't have the Flame of Keld, right? If we didn't have those the Mending of Dominaria, I think that they're the perfect venue for telling the story.
It's true. Aaron, what's number 8?
So one of my favorite cards in Commander is in desperate need of a reprint. It's my understanding that it's been reprinted. Well, according to Scryfall, it says it's been reprinted as World Champ decks, but it doesn't have a price next to it, so I don't know what that means. But I'm going to assume it's only been printed once then. It is an amazing card, particularly in tribal strategies. And my number 8 is a really great replacement for this. It's a little bit more affordable in terms of actual cash money. It's a little bit more expensive in terms of mana, but I think it's reasonable, and I will tell you why. My number 8 is Haunting Voyage. So Haunting Voyage is 4 colorless and 2 black. It is a sorcery. You can choose a creature type, and you return up to 2 creature cards of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield. If the spell was foretold, you return all creature cards of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield instead, and it does come with a foretell cost of 5 and 2 colorless. So this does a reasonable impression of Patriarch's Bidding, which is the card I was talking about.
$26 for Patriarch's Bidding?
It's gone anyway. It's fluctuated between 25 and 30. I borrowed mine from my boyfriend because I was like, I don't want to spend 30 for this. But yeah, and so Patriarch's Bidding costs 3 and 2 black, and it makes everybody do it. So it is cheaper, but everybody does it. This is just you. And so if you don't mind paying a little bit more for it, not only is this more affordable and easier on your pocketbook, but it also means that only you get to enjoy this benefit. And so this is another one of those cards that I would hold on to, because if you don't feel like, buying a Patriarch's Bidding, I think you can do just fine with this as well.
Or put them both in your deck.
Why not? Yeah.
Goblin Bidding was a dominant force in Standard.
The number one deck in Standard, for a while.
Number one deck in Standard for a long time. Almost won. I think it did not actually win a Pro Tour, but it almost won a Pro Tour. It is very, very, very good. And, we have these goblins, we have these changelings, we have these elves. I mean, this is a shoo-in for elves if we want to do a sort of self-mill, bring everything back style deck. I would love to see that.
And the extended art version is a completely different image that's like super cool and contrasted and nice and all that stuff. And haunting, for sure. This is one of the very few cards that has a higher foretell cost than the casting cost itself. But it kind of goes nuts when you foretell it.
Yeah, exactly.
You get all the goodies when that happens. All right. Let's move on here to number 7. My number 7 was the World Tree. So that's where I had it. Ruben?
Sorry about that.
It's all right, buddy. What is your number 7?
My number 7 is a card that we talked about during the live show once, where we looked at it and was like, why is the best aggressive creature that they printed in the set blue? I don't get it. Ascendant Spirit is my number 7. 1 blue mana gets you a 1/1 snow creature spirit. Snow, it becomes a 2/3. Snow. If it's a 2/3, it becomes a 4/4
with flying.
And snow. It gets 2+1/+1 counters, and then whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card, and those stack. So it keeps getting new +1/+1 counters and instances of being able to draw a card. So turn 1 Ascendant Spirit. You just don't have to do anything else the rest of the game.
No.
Turn 2, make it a 2/3, attack for 2. Turn 3, make it a 4/4, attack for 4. Turn 4, make it a 6/6, attack for 6 in the air and draw a card. That's 10, 12 damage from one card if they aren't doing anything, which is a lot of the time.
I don't know why this card exists the way it does. I don't know why I figure
It's only
Destiny
$1.
needed to be.
It's weird.
And it's
right?
And I can imagine, honestly, because it doesn't have that much casual power. Like, this is a very constructed card versus a very casual card. And what we've seen, I think, recently is all the casual cards have been very expensive, and some of the more competitive cards have not. And I think right here, Ascendant of Spirit's also waiting kind of for the right deck. Like, it just needs the right deck to show up, and then people get excited about it. Or maybe there's a great commander build out there that just needs this guy right here, but I don't really understand why you'd want this really awesome aggro card be blue. It's just
I don't understand.
It's fine, I guess. It's different. Aaron, what's number 7?
My number 7 is a card that I'm really excited about. I knew the minute I saw this card, I knew exactly where I wanted to put it. It's going to fit in really nicely in my Rakdos the Showstopper deck because it's a demon, and also because I run Conjurer's Closet. My number 7 is Cardor Doomscourge. So Cardor is 2 colorless, a black and a red. It's a legendary creature demon berserker with 4 power and 3 toughness. When Cardor enters the battlefield until your next turn, I love those words, creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able and attack a player other than you if able. And then whenever an attacking creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So, the theme of my Rakdos deck is obviously chaos and entertainment. And so, yes, I want you all to kill each other while I sit back and watch. And if you all happen to, drain yourselves, that's each opponent, and I gain some life, that's even better. And so I also run Liliana's Contract. It's a demon. It's hard to find good demons just to fulfill that contract. Sure. You wouldn't think it would be, but there's a lot of bad demons out there. And also, like I said, I play Conjurer's Closet, because if you're playing Rakdos the Showstopper, you want to keep repeating that coin flipping effect. And this is also something I wouldn't mind blinking just to keep people off my back.
It's true. Y'all fight. You go on, just
it's
fight amongst yourselves. I'll be over here gaining life.
I imagine that they were doing some play testing at Wizards one day, and it just said they attack if able, and then someone was like, "What if we made this like a little bit better for Commander?" And they like put some goad wording on it, and they were like, "Ooh, put that in the set. That thing's great." Right. One of the biggest disappointments, not really disappointments, one of the biggest sadnesses I have is that if I could go back and tweak one little thing about Magic, it's that demons and devils are sort of switched when it comes to how they are in Dungeons and Dragons. So in D&D, devils are the smart ones. Devils are the lawful evil ones. Demons are the chaotic evil ones. They're the crazed, wild, no plan.
Right, you would call them berserkers, even, like that would make other people fight each other like crazy.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Like that
this
demon
card fits the demons in my mind.
Gotcha.
This is a demon that's chaotic evil, as opposed to contracting, Gristlebrands and Kothafeds and stuff, and the devils being mindless, spitting stone throwers. Yeah. Right. And that was one little thing that I would switch.
Well, it seems like they're trending that way anyway, so that's.
But yeah,
that's
and
good.
I hope so by this coming summer when the D&D set comes out. Hopefully, we get more stuff like Cardor, because I think Cardor is a perfect demon in my mind's eye.
I just
for
realized
what a demon should do.
It sounds like Cardor.
Yes,
like when I play this
Cardor.
card, I want to say don't slam your finger in the Cardor.
I was making Carter jokes. Like
that's fine.
I can't
Agent
stop
Carter.
myself from Ermagerd's Curder, but it's just Curder the Durham Scourge.
Curter the Durham Scourge. Legendary creature, Durham Berserker.
All right, so for my number 6, I finally have one that is not higher on someone else's list, my very own card.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? But for my number 6, this is a fantastic freaking card. I have been playing in Historic, this really sick green-white life gain deck, it has just been crushing, because have you played with Righteous Valkyrie? Have you seen this card? This card is bananas. Righteous Valkyrie is a white and 2 generic mana for a 2/4 rare angel cleric with flying, and whenever whenever another angel or cleric enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. That includes multiple copies of her, by the way. As long as you have at least 7 or more than your starting life total, creatures you control get +2/+2. Yes, that includes her. That means she's a 4/6 flyer. We talked about her in the preview shows, the Magic shows, or sorry, the Magic Mike's shows, and my God, this card has just lived up to everything and more. This thing is insane.
This thing has insane stats.
Yeah.
3 mana for a 2/4 flyer with upsides. Plural.
Yeah.
That's crazy tough.
So good. So good. Yeah, this card has done nothing but impress me. And I mean, you just start gaining infinite life, and all of a sudden your Heliod's and your Johnny's Pride mates just start going bananas.
Oh my God.
That's how it goes. So yeah, Righteous Valkyrie is fantastic.
And if you are already at that higher life total, the +2/+2 counts towards the life gain that you would get for future Valkyrie triggers. So then when you play a 2/2 at 27 life, it is a 4/4, so you would gain 4 life.
That's right. If it's an angel or a cleric. Yeah, so.
Right.
Fan-freaking-tastic card. Ruben, what's your number 6?
My number 6 is higher on somebody else's list.
Okay, then. Aaron, what's your number 6?
My number 6 is a card that has commander players very worried. Effects like Grave Pact and Dictative Erebos, are already in the format. They're very polarizing. It tends to create a lot of feel bads. And so when you create a card that really adds more incentive for people to add these, kind of mass sack effects here, you have the potential for some feel bads, like I said. And so it'll be interesting to see, whether or not this lives up to the hype, if people, if this ends up being a card that people play with or how people deal with this. I'm really excited to see that. And I may also see play in Constructed as well. My number 6 is Turgid, God of Fright. So Turgid is 3 colorless and 2 black. She's a legendary creature god, 4 power, 5 toughness with menace. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you may put that card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Now, it doesn't have to be anything that you did. If they're just playing a saga, and that saga runs its course, that saga's now yours. If they play a Fabled Passage and they sacrifice that Fabled Passage, you get a Fabled Passage. Like, this is not something you have to try and break. Like, they can just play Magic and suddenly you're playing Magic. And if that's not enough, you can also flip her over and you can also cast Turgid's Lantern for 3 colorless and a black, which is a legendary artifact. You can tap it, target player loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card, so it fuels the other half. And you can also pay 3 colorless and a black to untap the Lantern. Like, I'm telling you, Commander players have a lot of thoughts about this. There were a lot of people on my Twitter feed that are like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to play against this. It just has the potential for a lot of feel bads, and I'm anxious to see if that's what happens.
That Lantern on the back has that Torrent of Hailfire
Hey, y'all.
They sacrifice or discard or lose 3. And
Torrent of Hailfire, that's right.
I love these flip legends because drawing multiples of legends is often bad. But this, you can go Turgid and then Turgid's Lantern. Not Turgid. This card is not named Turgid. That's a different word.
Turgid.
Turgid. But yeah, you don't really have to try hard at all. I mean, we've had a sacrifice deck that has been top tier for years at this point. I don't imagine that will change anytime soon. There's a couple of free sacrifice outlets in this set. This does a really efficient job of turning those off. So really, good.
I played against this a little bit, and generally, obviously in Commander it's a lot different, but generally, sort of in Constructed, it's target player loses 3 life. Like, you're not going to sacrifice a permanent, you're not going to discard a card unless you absolutely have to, or you're land flooded or something.
Sure.
But overall, very scary. This was my number 9, as I definitely recognize this A as a Commander powerhouse, but B as a card that does something just so incredibly unique, and both sides are really interesting. And also note you can target yourself with a Lantern if you really want to discard something or sacrifice something, and there's whole different reasons for that, but yeah, this card all in all is really sweet.
I know nothing about making myself discard
targeting yourself with a Thoughtseize. No,
I would never Cabal Therapy myself. Why would you ever?
Not once, not one time. Let's move here to number 5. Ruben, what you got?
Also higher on somebody else's list.
My 5 is higher. Yeah.
Well, I'll have to carry the 5 train here.
Hey, you know what? You deserve it. After your early part of the list, you deserve some nice things.
I mean, #5 kids. I mean, 5 is an important number for you.
It worked out because this is definitely one of my favorite cards of the set. This is one of the cards that I immediately gushed over and was immediately like, Evan, you don't know nothing. I'm like, okay, bruh, like, this card seems fan-freaking-tastic. I've played with it. It is fan-freaking-tastic. It's very powerful. Wizards wanted it to be that way. It really showcases the foretell mechanic, I think, in a fantastic way to show what you can give white as an upside in a foretelling world, which is make all the angels from Starnheim Unleashed.
Yeah.
Starnheim Unleashed is a 2 white, 2 generic mana mythic sorcery that creates a 4/4 white angel warrior creature token with flying and vigilance, but If this spell was foretold, you make X of those tokens instead. You can foretell it for a white and X, meaning during your turn you can pay 2 and exile this card from your hand face down. Cast it later for its foretell cost. So for 2 mana up front, 3 mana the next turn, you get a 4/4. That's good rate. That's sick. But you never should do that. You wait until you make 2 to 3 angels and it's a hug from Jesus. It's fantastic.
It's just like it's the spiritual successor to Entreat the Angels. It just makes me happy that they're like, hey, most folks coming into Magic, they're just going to be like, oh, cool Magic card. People who've been in the game for a while, they're going to be like, oh, I see what you did. This is because history rhymes, right? And so I get it. I get what we're doing here with the XX, with the 4/4 angels, with the this. I see what you did, and I like it.
Yes. Now, of course, Entreat the Angels was X white, which is
a
little bit more powerful. But then you had to rip it off the top of your deck.
Exactly.
So.
But you can't have all the nice things all the time, right? This is more of a callback to Decree of Justice, which was X 2 colorless white for all the angels. Obviously, you never cast that card, but yeah.
Sure. And I mean, I literally one time did legitimately pay 4 mana to cast this at sorcery speed to make a 4/4 angel, because sometimes that's what you need.
Oh, like, 4 for 4 flying is fine.
Is okay.
Yeah. And people do that with Entreat the Angels too. People get baited into feeling like it has to be this over the top, and you can do that, and it certainly feels good. But you're right. When I think back to games I've lost in Legacy, it's not because they went all out. It was because, they had backed me into a corner, and all they had to make was 2, and I couldn't even beat that. I was so far down. I was so far behind that I just lost to 2 crappy 4/4s with flying.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Okay, so we want to hear to number 4, which my last hire is my number 4. Ruben, you got one?
Yeah, I do. And it's weird because the best card draw engine coming in Standard is a Boros card.
Oh.
What?
That's crazy. This card's crazy.
Showdown of the Scalds is 2 colorless red-white
for
an enchantment saga. The first chapter is exile the top 4 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. And chapters 2 and 3, I mean, they're fine. Whenever you cast a spell this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That's Escape from the Wilds. Escape from the Wilds got banned in Standard, y'all. Like, this with Shepherd of the Flock.
Yes, it's the Shepherd interaction.
Is going to be absolutely, completely, insanely busted.
It's the best card draw engine in Standard in red-white. How does that make any sense?
Close. Yeah, so you can put it in a Jeskai deck if you want to, but you could also just put it in like a Naya deck and have the best card draw in your like Naya aggressive zoo strategy.
Yeah, this card is just bananas for the value that it gives you when you untap. I think a lot of people are like, whoa, I don't want to play some really expensive spells. Don't do that. Play really stupidly low-cost spells. Play the shocks. Play the little dorky spells that you can get out there, because you're going to have 4 cards you're going to want to play over the next 2 turns.
What's her name? Burgie? The one that says whenever you play a spell, you get a red mana?
Oh, we'll get to her later, yeah.
I'm sure we will. But you have like Burgie on turn 3, this on turn 4, and then you probably can just like start chaining immediately, because just play your whole hand. Like, you Glimpse of Nature at that point.
Yeah.
You play 30 cards in a turn and your Burgie's a 90/90.
It's just this is weird. This is one of those, like, I don't understand what they were doing design-wise for red-white. For this, the fortune of the Tyrite Sword, giving the mana ramp in red-white. Like, I don't...
Well, the fact that they gave it to red-white and did it in a way that makes flavorful sense... makes sense and stays faithful to the color pie is cool. Like, I'm happy that red-white has card advantage that is, actual, honest-to-God card advantage, but in a way that makes sense from staying loyal to the color pie.
Yeah, Wizards has been they've been bending things as necessary to give the 2 colors who their entire shtick of red-white is to win quickly, and you can't do that in Commander. Playing a 1-mana 2/1 in Commander is usually just a joke. Like, what are you doing? What's going on in your life? And so these are the types of cards that let you build different kinds of red-white decks, and not just, I hope my weenies get there.
Yeah.
Hey! This is a family show.
Look, you're the fertile one of the cast.
I also enjoy hot dogs.
Your weenie has gotten there plenty of times.
Goodness gracious. Aaron, what's your number 4?
So my number 4 is a card that I had a feeling was going to be good. And it's funny because I've seen some discourse on Twitter about this. I saw a tweet today, in fact, that said, so let me be clear. This is from Delmo222. This is a mana dork. This is not an engine for foretell decks. This lets you foretell on 3, play Vorin clicks on 4, and so on. This is a ramp creature. And so black has a ramp creature. Like, what a world. Like, this card is amazing. My number 4 is Dream Devourer. So Dream Devourer is 1 colorless and a black.
There it is.
It is a creature type demon cleric, a good demon again. 0 power and 3 toughness. Each non-land card in your hand without foretell has foretell. Its foretell cost is equal to its mana cost reduced by 2. And then whenever you foretell a card, Dream Devourer gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So I would assume that people are looking at this and going, oh, it's an aggressive card. It's a this card. And people are going, no. This is ramp. This is ramp in black. And you need to rethink the way you think of this card, because you probably thought this card was good, but it's good for entirely different reasons. And so I love that this card exists. I love that people called this card as being a good card. It's currently going for about $1.50 right now. So this is another one of those cards that I would get while you can, because I think when people really look at this card the way they're supposed to, you're going to get a lot of light bulbs going off of,
So what we're doing is we're playing this with 6 mana cards, right?
You're playing just fair magic. You're putting this just in a basic deck. You're not necessarily putting this in... people are going, I need to play a foretell deck and make it really, really big, like an ATOG. Right. And it's like, no, you just play this.
It's its own engine.
Just put it in any deck and...
Because then as soon as this thing hits the battlefield, everything, you're already playing the foretell deck, because everything has foretell at that point. This is amazing. I literally had not heard that sequence of this on turn 2, Vorinclex foretold, Vorinclex turn 4. That's absolutely frightening. And now I want to play with it a lot. So see how that works.
The fact that this combos with 6 drops is really interesting.
That's awesome. All right.
And somebody even mentioned later on down the thread, it says if you foretell a card with it on the field and it dies, you still have foretelled that card. Like that card, you don't lose that card in exile. Like, woof.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah. So this is a fantastic card. Thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it.
And it's a cleric somehow?
Oof.
What about that looks like a cleric to you?
He's gonna bring you some.
We don't body
religion.
Shame here.
I know.
That's fair.
You can have 40 tentacles and still have religious convictions.
And still be a priest of the gods.
And somebody out there is looking for those tentacles.
Exactly.
I'll worship that church.
Okay, moving on. Number 3.
Subscribe to my only tentacles.
So for my number 3, Wizards has a long storied, past of awesome 5-mana dragons. They have made 5-mana dragons that are hasty, 5-mana dragons that have pro white, 5-mana dragons that are hasty and that don't untap them next turn so they can deal damage and exert and whatnot. Yep. And this go around, you only have to see one interaction to understand how unbelievably sweet Goldspan Dragon is. And it is when it makes a treasure token and then you use it for Saw It Coming. There's no better feeling. It's so sick. It's unbelievable. And they can literally, you can play it. They'll try to Heartless Act it. And then because they target you with Heartless Act, you get a treasure token, which then gets 2 mana. That's right, which is still in the stack. So then you can play Saw It Coming, which is exactly what I did earlier today. And my God, it felt fantastic. Goldspan Dragon is 2 red, 3 generic mana for a 4/4 mythic dragon with flying and haste. Whenever it attacks or becomes the target of a spell, oh my God, I love those words. It creates a treasure token. Treasures you control have tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 2 mana of any one color.
Yeah. I like this, and you guys have heard me talk about through the years, when we first started the show, I was pretty anti-red. I didn't even have that mountain up there. And it wasn't that I didn't like red. I just liked red doing different things. I couldn't relate to the burn aspect of red. I didn't enjoy goblin guides and lava spikes. That's not my scene, but give me an experimental frenzy. Give me, a Pashalik Mons. Give me something with an aristocrat. Give me red doing different things and I'm on board with it. And this is what I love. This is not your typical, yes, it's a hasty dragon, but, like you said, Evan, that interaction with giving you mana, giving you red ramp of sorts, and also making your existing treasures, bigger. Dockside Extortionist is a popular red card in Commander. And so if you play this after this, those treasures you've made and treasures you control, I like this. This is new. This is different ramp in red. This is a different ability. This is a different form of protection. Really beautiful art. I'm here for this card.
I have a feeling at some point it only got a treasure token when attacking, and then somebody said, what if we could just run this out and then get a treasure token when you tried to kill it? And you're like, oh, okay, that sounds like fun.
So, this was my number 5. This is exactly what I want to be doing with my life. Stormbreath Dragon, Glorybringer, Goldspan Dragon. If it's a 4/4 flyer dragon for 5 with haste, is going to be good. Like that's what the story is.
It's just how it racks up. That's right.
In mono red, we're not talking hypersonic dragon here. But yeah, this card is insane. I mean, the fact that you get 2 mana from every treasure, the fact that when you try to kill it, you get 2 mana. When you attack, it ramps you, so you can get into like your Ugins good later.
My God,
like it's insane.
It's insane. Like really, this is a card that like I kind of like. I knew it was good, right? It's fine. It reads well, whatever. But then you get to play with it. And you're like, oh my God, the mana advantage it gives you is just so huge. You're playing 2 to 3 cards a turn, and your opponents can't keep up. And that's why this card is $15 something right now because it's great.
Yeah.
And Aaron, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is the last hire on my list.
Okay, Ruben, what's your number 3?
It's also the last hire on my list.
Oh, I carried 5 and 3. Goodness
Sure did.
Nice.
My back's getting sore. All right. Ruben, what's your number 2?
Get that looked up. My number 2 is a card that, again, it harkens back to the mythology of Norse lore. It is itself a good card, but on top of that, it also features a character that ain't get no respect and is finally about to get some respect. And it combos weirdly and interestingly with existing cards to maybe make it playable in older formats. My number 2 is Valki, God of Lies.
My number 3.
My number 8.
Valki is a colorless and a black for legendary creature God. When Valki enters the battlefield, each opponent reveals their hand. For each opponent, exile a creature card they revealed this way until Valki leaves the battlefield. Pay X. Choose a creature card exiled with Valki with converted mana cost X. Valki becomes a copy of that card. Let's stop there for now. So it's a 2/1 for 2 that takes a threat away.
Takes their best creature 9 times out of 10.
Takes away their Goldspan Dragon, let's say. And also lets you cast them in the future hostage taker style. That is just a good value on the front by itself.
Well, not exactly. You don't get the enters the battlefield stuff, but on the whole, fantastic.
Yeah, that's fine. You essentially, I mean, it becomes the dragon, right? You don't get comes into place.
You don't get play or you cast a spell, whatever.
Fine. But on the back, it also is Tybalt Cosmic Imposter. For 5 colorless black red, as Tybalt enters the battlefield, you get an emblem with, you may play cards exiled with Tybalt Cosmic Imposter, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. +2, and it starts with 5 loyalty to go up to 7. Exile the top card of each player's library. -3, exile target artifact or creature. -8, exile all cards from all graveyards. Add red, which means that you can cast all of the things that you're exiling with Tybalt. So the rules interaction with this is that if you cascade into Valki with Shardless Agent, with whatever, then you can choose which side to play. It's like the old boom bust trick.
Yeah.
Except for that they fixed that on split cards, but they haven't done it on double face cards.
Yes.
Oh.
Popular legacy player Anurag Das, also known as AnZD MTG, he's a legacy streamer as well. Did a 5-0 with Shardless Bug, which was essentially playing 2-3 copies of Valki, and so
Nice.
This card is insane. Like, let's be clear. If you just said on the other side was a Magic the Gathering logo, we'd have been like, wow, that's a damn good Magic card, right? It didn't need to be a 7-mana Planeswalker on the other side that you get.
No one's paying for it.
No, you get it for free off the Prismatic Bridge.
Yeah.
You just play the other side. Yeah. Like the fact that it attacks the hand early, first thing, gets their best creature out of their hand. You get to see what their entire hand looks like, which is another huge bonus. But later on, it becomes a fantastic late game spell that's really hard to deal with. My God, this card was just pushed in every way but loose, and it's $25 freaking plus for a reason.
I think do you guys think they're going to let that stand? Like, are they going to let this? Because they corrected the boom bust thing pretty quick.
They fixed boom bust. They fixed the beck and call jar of eyeballs interaction pretty quick. They may not let this one stick.
I think they will. I think Wizards is to the point where
it's fine.
They say it's funner this way. It's more fun this way. Then
oh God,
sure, why not? Go nuts. Let's go crazy.
And anything to make 7-mana Tybalt playable in Legacy.
I mean, that ability is sweet. For what it's worth, I mean, like it's number 8 on mine. It's Aaron's number 3. It's Ruben's number 2. I feel it would probably be a lot higher on the list if I could play with it more. Because every time I've played with it or against it, my God, the card is insane.
And it is fun gameplay. Like even just the 2-1 is a combination of Mesmeric Fiend and Hostage Taker, and like Lazav the Multifarious, that is just like super fun.
Yeah, it's really neat.
So we're starting to get into cards that are seeing play in older formats. We talked about Valky kind of going all the way to Legacy and people playing it with Shardless Agent and bringing Shardless Bug back because, to be honest, Shardless Bug hadn't been a thing for a while. We've kind of, it's more of a Grixis Delver thing, a Rug Delver thing, and so now, Bug might be coming back. Who knew? This is another card that went straight to the top. People in Vintage have been playing it with it thanks to Moxen and Memnites and Skull Clamps and things of that nature. And people are trying it in other formats as well, but I have a feeling it's just going to be the best in Vintage. Number 2 is Burgi, God of Storytelling. So Burgi is 2 colorless and a white. She's a legendary creature god with 3 power and 3 toughness. Whenever you cast a spell...
Oh, God.
Yep.
Add red mana, add 1 red. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Creatures you control can boast twice during each of your turns rather than once. Nobody cares. You can also flip her over, and she's 4 colorless and a red for Harnfell Horn of Bounty, which is a legendary artifact. You can discard a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library, and you may play those cards this turn. So I was watching a couple Vintage streamers try to play this, and they were pairing her with Cole initially, which says whenever a non-token creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, you return it to its owner's hand. So you would attach a Skull Clamp to your Memnite, draw 2 cards, you'd return the Memnite to your hand, recast the Memnite, and you would just do this over and over and over again.
Draw your deck.
Exactly. You would draw your deck, you'd make a bunch of mana, and you'd cast Grape Shot. You'd kill people. The Vintage folks are realizing that you don't necessarily need Cole now. And so the lists that people were running yesterday were really just running Burgi and either Bolus's Citadel and Mystic Forge.
Yeah. Sure.
Or just other things that you can kind of, just cheap artifacts that really tend to thrive in Vintage. And they're hoping to make this a thing, and I think it's great.
It's also still just good with Skull Clamp. Like, you don't need the Cull. You just play your Memnite, add a red. Equip the Skull Clamp with the red, draw 2 cards. You'll probably draw another Memnite or some Moxen, or who cares?
This is example number, 2,722nd of Wizards doesn't care about older formats because this card is just completely broken in half.
To be fair, though, I think it's fine, though. We talked earlier in the show about how Kaldheim as a whole is fine. Like, even though it's powerful,
exciting.
It's a 3-mana 3/3.
Yeah,
it's a Nessian Courser.
Yeah, but it's fun. Like these, I'm loving watching all these clips. Yeah, let them have it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that type of design has been paying off.
Make a red-white deck good in Vintage. Let's get there, folks.
Yes, a Thalia combo deck. Come on.
Fantastic. All right. So for my number 2, that I'm positive, or at least I'm fairly positive, is on both of y'all's lists. This card is fantastic on rate. There is something, look, Wizards has done nothing but try to make like the best spell discounts, I guess is the way you could say it, on spells forever. Like, they've done the morph stuff with creatures. You sort of kind of prepay. Foretell, you're kind of prepaying. And when they get it right, like Saw It Coming, right, and it's really fantastic, and you're like, oh, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if they gave us a 3-mana Wrath of God, and then they did, and we're like, and it's so good. Doomscar is 2 white and 3 generic mana for a rare sorcery that destroys all creatures, but you may foretell it for 2 white and a generic mana. So foretell it on turn 2, you can play it on turn 3. Yes, I have done so against the red deck, and yes, it feels good every time.
This was my number 3.
Nice.
Like, what do you do as an aggro deck when your opponent foretells on turn 2? Your opponent's got 16, 12 foretell cards in their deck between Saw It Comings, Doomscars, and other effects.
Draw spell, that would draw
Poison the wells, draw 2, scry 2, like but they foretell on like, you go 1 drop, 2 drop, and they go foretell, and then what do you do? Do you play your Burgi? Do you just like hold up burn mana and hope that they don't kill your stuff? Like, what do you even do against such reckless hate?
It's
and then it's even worse when they actually have it. Like,
do you play your Arnie on turn 3? Like, is that where you're going?
It's funny because I feel like I've seen so much discourse over the last year or so talking about how, what aggro needs to be a thing again. People were like, oh, well, you can't really have an aggressive deck in the format if your lands are coming into play tapped. And you can't really have, all these reasons why, aggressive strategies aren't doing so well. And, just when you thought they were maybe going to fix that or give you some tools, they were like, nope, we're just going to give you a 3-mana board wipe.
I mean, think about how long it was before they finally gave us Shatter the Sky, just last year.
4 mana.
Which is a 4-mana board wipe. 4-mana board wipe, that's insane. They're never going to get better than that, and then they're getting better.
They bumped Pyroclasm up to 3 mana.
Mm-hmm.
They Fiery Cannonade and Volcanic Fallout are tournament playable cards. You're talking Wrath of God at 3 mana?
Yeah. And this is that perfect,
Girl.
you already, right, but you already paid for it, right? You'll ultimately pay 5 mana every
You'll pay
time.
5.
But it never
you
feels
put it on
that
layaway.
way.
It never feels that way. You put it on layaway. It made you not play your, whatever your turn 2 was going to be. Who cares, though? Because you got to wrath their board and not die.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, all right, let's move on here to our number 1 pick. Ruben, what's number 1?
I have 2 words to say to you. Legendary Squirrel.
Oh my God.
Wow. Legendary Squirrel, everybody. Legendary Squirrel.
Legendary
Toski, Bearer of Secrets is my number 1 because it's a legendary squirrel.
It's legendary squirrel.
And that's all you need to know. The rest of the card could do nothing, and it'd be my number 1.
Nice.
Toski, Bearer of Secrets is 3 colorless and a green for a 1/1 squirrel that can't be countered and is indestructible.
Why?
Toski, Bearer of Secrets attacks each combat if able, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. That last line is interesting. We've paid 4 mana just for that last line.
Yeah.
With Bident of Thassa, Coastal Piracy, what have you.
Right.
But then you put it on a green creature. You put it on a green creature that can't be countered or destroyed and also would trigger its own ability. That's pretty cool. And it's also a direct reference to Ratatoskr, the messenger squirrel, who travels up and down Yggdrasil, the world tree, to deliver messages to the gods.
I didn't even know that last part, so that's really sweet. That's a Toski. We've come to the point where years ago they're like, we're just not going to make squirrels. Like, squirrels are just not going to happen. And we're like, please make squirrels. And we say, please make squirrels for the next 3 to 4 years. And then they start finally showing up again in the unsets, and they finally start showing up again like this. This is great.
I love that. For as much as people love to say that, Wizards isn't listening, they do listen. I mean, they just may not necessarily give you everything you want to, but, they leaned in on the Fabulthip thing. They're leaning in on the squirrels thing. Like, the things they choose to lean into,
when they take themselves less seriously. Because Kaldheim is about heavy metal music.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have done that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have been. It would have just been a Norse set. It would have
been like a Game of Thrones,
heavy metal.
Vikings trailer, serious.
Deadly serious. No.
They wouldn't have made the funny, jokey kind of stuff. Like,
they wouldn't have made Tybalt the villain or the antagonist.
Right. Well, they also. I mean, you saw the success of Thor Ragnarok, right? Where you have this hilarious, goofy, off the wall thing combined with Norse mythology. Mm-hmm. They leaned into it, and they're smart for doing so.
Yeah, somehow they figured out Thor was supposed to be slapstick comedy, and that's how it works. And it
was a buddy travel movie.
Yeah,
Thor Ragnarok was.
There you go. Aaron, what's number 1?
So speaking of Tybalt, I mean, this could only be my number 1. I love cards that when a new set comes out and a card is able to make an immediate impact, not just on a format, but on multiple formats and on older formats. And when something can be so broken and so powerful that you see people that even lesser versions of the deck, even rough cuts, are able to 5-0 and do well. And to see people going, to see the tuning, to see a deck be born before your eyes, it is so broken, but still fine. Like, this is a deck that I don't anticipate having to be banned. People have already figured out ways to beat it. I've already seen hilarious screenshots of it just folding in on itself. It's powerful, but it's fine. And it kind of breaks the color pie a little bit. It gives Red some fun things to do. I think it's great. My number 1 could only be Tybalt's Trickery. So Tybalt's Trickery is 1 colorless and a red. It is an instant. It says counter target spell. This is a red card.
Oh, yeah. That's where we're starting.
So we're here.
We
choose 1, 2, or 3 at random. Its controller mills that many cards, then exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card with a different name than that spell. They may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then they put the exiled cards on the bottom of their library. in a random order. So we'd seen Chaos Warp before. We've seen this kind of magic where I'm going to get rid of your thing, and I'm going to hope to God the thing you have isn't worse than this. We've seen that before. It's fine. But being able to turn that on yourself, and specifically building your deck in such a way to where you get an Emrakul, I think what really kind of pushed this over the edge was when Frank Karsten, Magic's mathematician, made an actual post that was like, you've got like an 80% chance of getting Emrakul. Like when Frank said it was possible, that's what set the Brewers in motion. And we've seen so many screenshots of turn 1 Emrakuls, turn 2 Emrakuls, and just really silly plays. People are trying to find a way to make this work in Standard with Stonecoil Serpent and Tormod's Crypts and things like that. And so I love this. Is it stopped by Teferi? Yes. Is it stopped by Negate? You betcha. But damn it, let them have their fun.
It's still Pierce.
This was on my list as well. This was my number 4.
This was on my list at one point, but I decided I knew someone would have it on their list. So.
Nice. Well, this card is just complete silly ridiculousness. Yeah. And by the way, he replied to himself on that tweet and he said, no, my math was wrong. You actually get turn 3 Emrakul 91.5% of the time. With that deck is ridiculous. I don't like. At the same time, this is one of those. It's the ultimate glass cannon.
Yes. Yeah.
This is Wizards whatever about old formats.
It's Belcher in Standard.
Fine.
Yes, it's fun in Commander. That's where it needs
Belcher.
to be fun.
That's fine.
And it's okay that it completely busts stuff because they'll just ban it if it gets too bad.
It's the most likely card to get banned from the set, probably.
So
but you
far.
know what? If I get to read a banned and restricted announcement that says Tybalt's Trickery is banned.
What a time to be alive, right?
Exactly. I'm going to be so happy.
So happy. Well, by process of elimination, this will be Ruben's number 6 and Aaron's number 5 is my number 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is, I would argue, the most exciting card out of the set. For a variety of reasons. Wizards definitely wanted to make this mythic, and none of the mythics suck, which is also great. But there is one that rules above all in terms of price, in terms of super cool promo version, the showcase version, which is fantastic. And the idea that this card is scary, it's built to scare you, and it scares me because every time I play against it, it usually beats me to death incessantly. Vorinclex Monstrous Raider is 2 green, 4 generic mana for a 6/6 mythic legendary Phyrexian Praetor. Finally, Phyrexian.
Yep.
I love it. It has trample and haste. Oh god. If you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or a player, put twice that many of each of those kind of counters on that permanent or player instead. We're talking about Planeswalkers, by the way, who come in with double their loyalty counters. And
this
sagas.
is a 6/6 Trample Haste doubling season.
It turns off all of their sagas. Their sagas don't do anything. They just sit there and look weird. If an opponent would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, they put half that many rounded down. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Card's
Lots
stupid.
of questions around this card. This was my number 5. As my boyfriend said yesterday, why does this have haste? He couldn't get past that.
It's a 6/6 Trampling Hasting doubling season.
This
what
is
happening?
also a huge hook into the storyline where what is Vorinclex doing here? They haven't explicitly answered it. The most prevalent theory is that Tezzeret had something to do with it because if you go back and look at the article, they've been doing these articles before a set comes out where they go over the legends of the set. And they talk about Vorinclex and they say, Vorinclex lost all of his flesh, so he's down to bone and metal, which screams the Planner Bridge because the Planner Bridge famously can't send anything organic over, which is how Bolas was able to send the Eternals army over. Was they're not organic, and so they were able to make the trip. And so it sounds and so we're wondering if this was if he just sort of got loose, or if this is going to be. Some people have also speculated that we may see the Praetors sprinkled throughout the next couple sets, leading to the ultimate return to Phyrexia. And so people are really, really eager to see why he's here. Is this just sort of a one of, oops, he slipped the leash or whatever? But yeah, you have a lot of popular terms here. Vorinclex, which is huge in Commander. Phyrexian, the Phyrexian promo, which people are obviously really wanting. The doubling season text on it. There's a lot to love about this card. There's no surprise. It's no surprise. It's going for $30, $35 right now.
The foil Phyrexian version is $225.
I opened one yesterday and it actually wasn't that great in my pre-release. But that's because of my deck. It wasn't because the card was good. Just
Yeah, but it's a nice one to have for Commander later.
Yay.
You got the Phyrexian version? You opened
No,
that
I
one?
opened the normal version, which is only $35.
Only
I'll be okay.
$35.
Only
I'll be
$35.
sealed. Yeah. This card's insane. I really like your theory of it becoming like a cinematic universe thing where they sprinkle the bad guys and they show up in random places, and then it all ultimately leads to a set announcement. The Revenge of Phyrexia, or Rise of Phyrexia, or Phyrexia Returns, or something like that. That is dope AF. Also, they've said that they're going to go back and errata a bunch of old creatures to add the Phyrexian creature type to them, which is a fantastic idea. I'm curious to see which ones are going to get the Phyrexian creature type.
I would love to see another Praetor show up in Strixhaven, and another one show up in the Innistrad sets or whatever.
Yeah,
the D&D set should have one.
I think Jin Gitaxias shows up in Strixhaven. Yeah. That's my prediction.
Right.
D&D set, I don't know about D&D set. Praetor in D&D set. I think that they've got
so much dead, right?
Sheldred could do a Lolth impression, right?
Sheldred could be in a D&D set. Absolutely. Okay. That's a great one, actually. Yeah, Living in the Underdark. I love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And Urabrask shows up or whatever later. Why not?
Urabrask shows up later. Elishnorn shows up later. Whatever. And then it all leads up to Phase 2 of the Magic Cinematic Universe.
Mm-hmm.
And
but wouldn't it be funny if it was just like a whoopsies, where it's like he just got out and it's never brought up again?
Yeah. Also that.
That was our top 10 Kaldheim cards. You'll see them on screen right now if you're a review. Take a look at my list, Aaron's list, Ruben's top 10, and we want to hear from you about what card we did not talk about, and we'll select our favorite to win a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com. But before we go, I want to thank my co-host. Thank you, Aaron.
Called me maybe.
Thank you, Ruben.
Yeah,
I had to.
Kaldheim maybe.
Called me maybe. I can't believe no one did that. Like,
hey, I just met you.
This is
crazy.
This is
magic. Oh, whatever. We tried.
Thank
or
you,
even
Ruben.
Called Me, the old Blondie song. Called me. Blondie. There are people in this audience who are not going to know who Blondie is. I just need it. Yeah.
Please look up Blondie in your Spotify. I assure you it's better than the boomers that go on about
Ruben, thank you.
What's up? Oh, I was just doing some karaoke.
Very nice. Very nice. As we move here to our final slide, I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, CardHoarder.com and AlterSleeves.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social tells people we exist. Catch us online at Twitch.tv at Magic Mikes, on Twitter at Magic Mikes Cast, our Magic Mikes subreddit, and like the Magic Mikes page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody.